This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed, and therefore should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discretion, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn of through this show.
Greetings, metaphysicians.
In this episode, Ren discusses meditation with La Sarmiento.
Welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci. I had the pleasure of interviewing my meditation teacher, La. La is the facilitator of the Sangha I go to here in Washington, D.C. I just love their outlook and their way of explaining the Dharma and their connection with it. I have been wanting to share La and their insights on this podcast for a while now, so I'm really excited to have been able to do this interview. La Sarmiento is a genderqueer Filipino-American body-working, Reiki-ing, ukulele-playing servant of the Dharma. They have been practicing Vipassana meditation with the Insight Meditation Community of Washington since 1998. La teaches and manages Insight Meditation Community of Washington's retreats and leads their People of Color and LGBTQ Sanghas. A graduate of the Community Dharma Leadership Program at Spirit Rock, La also teaches retreats for the LGBTIQ community at the Garrison Institute, for teens with inward-bound mindfulness education, for young adults at Spirit Rock, and is a mentor for the Mindfulness Meditation Teacher Certification Program with Tara Brock and Jack Cornfield. I'm here today with La Sarmiento. Thank you so much for making the time for me today, La. I'm so thrilled.
You're so welcome, Ren. Thank you for having me.
I have been looking forward to this for a long time. I knew back when I was starting the podcast that I wanted to talk to you whenever it was the best time for both of us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have a metaphysical experience that you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the one I would choose of the many I feel like I've experienced in my life is when I was in massage school back in the early 90s. And I was the kind of practitioner who believed that, you can only fix things by physically manipulating, through the body work. And a lot of my classmates were into energy work and saw auras and colors and things like that. And I was just like, oh, that's just so woo-woo, And so because I was such an intense physical practitioner, I got really bad wrist tendinitis in my right thumb. And I was also working as a lab technician at Georgetown University, and so I used my hands a lot. So I went to an allopathic doctor, and they basically said, you need to ice it, rest it, and take anti-inflammatories. I was in severe pain and had limited range of motion for probably about 3 months. And so a classmate of mine in massage school saw me suffering and said, La, I know you don't believe in this stuff, but let me just try a little Reiki on you, and let's just see what happens. And so I was just at my wit's end, and I decided, okay, I'll just do this. And so she just, held my wrist for about 20 minutes before class started and kept talking to me like I'm talking to you now. And as soon as class started, she let go of my wrist, and I had full range of motion and absolutely no pain.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, So I became a believer, and I took my first Reiki class as soon as I graduated from massage school. And then fast forward about 5 years later, I developed the same wrist tendinitis, but on the left wrist. And I thought, 20 minutes, with the Reiki, and it'll be gone. And so I did it for 20 minutes. Pain and was still there, and every day I would do it, it was still there. I thought, my Reiki is broken. This is like not at all working. And what it had me think about was like how hard I was working. I was doing a lot of connective tissue massage, which was very deep body work. I was doing Thai massage when it first came on the scene. And so I was like physically working too much and seeing anywhere between 15 to 20 clients. And the only way I could work with them at that point was to do more energy work. And so I did more Reiki on my clients. And as soon as I started switching how I was working with my clients, the pain started to dissipate. And so We often say that like Reiki doesn't always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need. And what I needed was that insight that I needed to work smarter and not harder. And so, so that miracle, in a sense, just really opened me up to just a lot of just trusting that things are going to arise and it may hurt or cause suffering, but it's there to teach me a lesson. So
that's beautiful. There's a few things that came out of that I want to come in and ask about.
Sure.
One is I don't think I realized maybe until today that you did go to massage school. We were talking about it a little bit before. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. And I didn't realize that you were not always a believer. You know, like in my mind, law has always been a believer for all things, right? So
I was I was a scientist, you know, like that's my background. And so it's all about facts and what's like I can see and touch and feel right in the here and now and not anything outside of that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So it's possible.
Yeah. Well, I come from a similar science academic background as well. I never knew that you did. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So did the meditation study come after the Reiki, or was that pre-massage therapy school?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because one of the gifts I gave myself after massage school was to go to Kripalu, you know, which is a yoga center up in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And it was the first time I'd ever practiced yoga. It was the first time I'd ever eaten vegetarian. It was this whole, new world for me. And I just really resonated with it. You know, the teachings, I was raised Catholic, but I noticed that I really resonated with more Eastern teachings, whether it be Hinduism or Buddhism. And I was the kind of person who was very active, and so it was really hard for me to sit still. So I would say that yoga was primarily my practice before starting to meditate. And it was a very difficult and challenging breakup that brought me to meditation, because I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm focusing more on something outside of myself to make me happy. Maybe I need to really get a sense of who this is in me and not rely on something outside of myself to complete myself or, you know, bring me what it is that I feel like I need. So that's how I started on meditation.
Beautiful. I feel like you're so generous with sharing your own story, and I've been a student of yours, I'd say, for the last 3 or 4 years on and off, and I just learned so much about you just now, which is also
Gotta keep the mystery going,
I
then.
know, yeah, totally. I love it and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So how would you describe meditation, and how does that work?
There's so many different forms of meditation, and the form that I've practiced over the last 20 years is called Vipassana, or insight meditation. The word Vipassana means clear seeing. So it's about moment-to-moment awareness of what is present in one's experience, and being able to notice how that impacts body sensations, how it impacts emotions and feelings, and as well as thoughts that get generated from the experience. I like to call it watching your own inner reality show. You know, it's we're always so focused on everybody else's reality, and so it's kind of going inward and being able to, through anchoring with our breath or body sensations or sound, a way to calm the mind so we can actually see what arises, you know, in our experience, and meeting whatever arises with as much kindness and compassion as we can. Because when we can cultivate that kindness and compassion, we also are able to be with things better. If we're pushing it away or not wanting it to be there for whatever reason, we can't fully experience life. So I feel like the practice of this form of meditation is developing the courage and strength to be with whatever is happening as best we can in any given time, with kindness and compassion, so that we can be aware, basically aware of our lives, aware of the thoughts that we think, aware of the feelings and emotions that we have, and aware of how it impacts our body. So it's just becoming aware by paying attention.
You already talked a little bit about your introduction to meditation, or when in your life you got into it, but I'm curious, and I'm sure some of our listeners are, how long did it take you to become comfortable meditating? You know?
Yeah, it takes a little while, you know. The instructions are really simple. Okay. It's basically just sit still, be aware of your breath, and notice what happens, you know, with kindness and compassion.
Doesn't sound so hard, does it?
Yeah, it's just simple. It's it's pie. But, you know, I remember like when I first sat down that like the barrage of thoughts that would go through my head, and the barrage of like questioning, like, am I doing it right? Is this working? I don't know what I'm doing. It's constantly doubting like the experience of what's happening. And then just noticing just the amount of thoughts and questioning that happens. And when I paid attention to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's really like out of control. And when I got more familiar with the patterns of thoughts, mostly that pointed to like there's something wrong with you, or you're not good enough, or those kinds of thoughts, I got to sit with, do I actually believe those thoughts, and how have they run my life? So it brought this insight of like, wow, I can actually let go of those thoughts. I don't have to keep believing these stories. That's basically what they are, that I've kept telling myself all my life, that have created, a sense of low self-esteem, or a sense of insecurity around other people, anxiety around being myself. And I've just found that the practice has just really helped me accept me fully for who I am in all aspects. And that has just been such the most empowering thing. So.
Developing like compassion for yourself.
Yeah, the compassion, acceptance, understanding. Like, I'm okay, and in Buddhism, the premise is, we all have innate goodness, we all have Buddha nature, and when I can remember that, that becomes my compass. And so is anything I'm doing or thinking or feeling in alignment with that or not? And if it's not, then what do I need to cultivate to come back to that truth for myself?
I'm curious. I've been a pretty consistent meditator for probably about 4 years, 4.5 years, almost every day in different ways. Sometimes I sit quietly, as you just described. Sometimes I listen to guided meditations, etc. But even this morning, I'm listening to a guided meditation, and my mind's wandering, and I bring myself back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm listening to this thing. After, and you've been doing it much longer. So I guess my question is, or if you have any, comment on this, is for your practice, do you still do that? Does your mind still kind of drift from where you want it to be?
Yeah, what I've noticed, so it's been 20 years since I've been practicing, but a lot of the time there's nothing in my mind. Like, that barrage of thoughts that I was referring to earlier, that's not there anymore. My partner often teases me and says, the only thing that goes through your mind these days, La, are bacon fantasies and like the lyrics to bad 70s songs.
Yes.
There's like nothing there, so that I can actually be really present to what's there, unless I'm feeling stressed for whatever reason. But my level of ruminating about the past or thinking about the future is lessened a lot, because I've noticed that I can't do anything about it. Like if I'm in the present moment, the past is already done. I can't do anything about that. The future hasn't arisen. So I'm right here and right now as much as possible. But I can definitely notice when I get distracted, like squirrel moments, and then when I can awaken to the fact that I'm distracted, then I can come back. So to me, the whole practice is one of just remembering and forgetting. All we're doing is remembering and forgetting. The amount of time between, remembering and forgetting, I think gets better the more we practice. It gets shorter. It's like, oh, I'm off, let me come back. So I think it's just a matter of what our minds do. It's just the nature of mind to think thoughts and get lost in them. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so is that the primary practice, what you described as sitting still and quietly and breathing and observing what comes up, observing what arises? Is that what you've been doing mostly for the last 20 years of your practice?
I would say a combination of that, because that is more of like a concentration practice to like help focus and steady the mind. But if that's in and of itself, it doesn't really help much. It's like, wow, I'm a really focused, person. I can pay attention in a pointed way. Other parts of my practice are like cultivating heart practices like loving kindness and compassion and equanimity, so that no matter what happens in my experience that arises during meditation or just in life, I can like bring a sense of kindness and compassion to it so that I can be with it. Like, oh, okay, here's an upset, or an outrage that may be coming through me. I don't have to get caught up in the stories of that. Can I just like allow myself to feel angry or feel grief or feel sadness and notice how it's impacting my body and feelings and mind, and just allow it to move through. Like research has shown that the lifespan of an emotion is 90 seconds.
Wow.
So
I think I learned that from you. And it's true.
Yeah.
I've tested that.
And if we can
Set the timer, I'm feeling angry.
Exactly. It's like if we can just like ride that wave, we don't have to carry it for the rest of our lives. I mean, how many stories and beliefs do we have within ourselves that are decades old that just don't really serve, because we have unfelt emotions or thoughts and beliefs that we have. And so the more we can learn to be with it, I think the more full and spacious our lives can be.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You've already touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if we might delve further in and if you might have any examples through your students or folks that you've seen throughout the years. And the question is, how can meditation be helpful and for whom? And we've been touching on that, but maybe you have, some insights from seeing people do this with you for the past several years that you've been leading students.
For me, meditation is one of many tools. It's like, I don't like to think of it as like the be-all and end-all. I think there's lots of different tools out there that can support us in waking up and feeling a sense of well-being and peace. I feel that meditation for me has been about being free. It's about liberation. It's about not being imprisoned by my thoughts and beliefs that don't serve me. And so what I've noticed with students of mine, whether they be teenagers or adults from all walks of life, is that when they're able to pay attention and do so with kindness and compassion, it lends a level of acceptance and tolerance and resilience and ease and calm and a willingness to like hang in there with life and to trust life. One of my favorite Tibetan prayers that I actually say every day goes, "Grant that I may be given the appropriate difficulties and sufferings on this journey so that my heart may be truly awakened and that my practice of liberation and compassion may be truly fulfilled." So it really is like, I call it my bring it prayer. It's like no matter what life brings, it's going to teach me something. And so to have that shift in perspective of rather than being victim to life, like I'm actually being taught by life what I need to learn. And if I can trust that through this practice, it's just made my life more alive, more full, more spacious to accept whatever comes.
That's beautiful. And your story, it said it brings liberation. It reminded me of something that happened when I was meditating. And you and I, when we were chatting before the episode a little bit, you were raised Catholic, you said. I was not raised Catholic by my mom, but she did put me in Catholic school for several years, which gave me a very bad taste in my mouth about it. And I distanced myself a lot from that particular religion and way of looking at spirituality for a long time. And a few years ago, while I was meditating after my yoga practice, I got this song was in my head, and it was "O Come All Ye Faithful," I think. But it was like specifically the part about Jesus and like, "Oh come, let us adore him." And that it became so clear to me that Jesus was there with me while I was meditating, and that song has become a hallmark that they will play in my ears when he is near for whatever reason. And that moment of meditation was extremely liberating to me because it was like I don't need to follow Catholicism in order to be connected to the truth of it, to be connected with the masters involved in what became the Catholic religion. And it was a very liberating moment for me that came through meditation, and I've had several like that. And I don't know, that just popped up, I think, because we were both talking about Catholicism and how it kind of wasn't the perfect thing for us at the time, we'll say.
I always say, take what you need and leave the rest behind.
Right.
It's like there's so much in life that can teach us, and there's so many incredible teachers out there, and we may agree with some things they say, and we may disagree with things they say. And, the Buddha often said, that be a lamp unto yourself. Don't believe me or other teachers, or if it doesn't resonate with your own truth, then let it go. So it really is, for me, what's so beautiful about the practice and the teachings is that it gives so much space to make it your own, to understand who this is, the biggest spiritual question, like, who am I? And in understanding that, we can best see what causes harm for ourselves or others and what causes benefit to ourselves and others, and clarify that more.
I feel like I've been asking that question a lot lately.
So that's a great example of your story. I love it, because Jesus is an incredible teacher. I still believe in God,
Right.
I mean, that was one of the things that I'm grateful for about my parents raising me Catholic. It gave me the practice of having faith in something outside of myself, which ultimately I believe is actually having faith in myself, but to be able to turn it over to something, just feels comforting.
It does,
Yeah.
It really does. It's not like I'm Catholic now, because I'm definitely not, but I have that particular energy, we'll say energy or being of Jesus has certainly helped me open my heart, which is what apparently he was really good at when he was on the earth. So, I couldn't make that up, and that came through stilling my mind and then listening literally to the songs playing in my head.
Yeah.
So beautiful things can arise from becoming still enough to let what needs to come through come through.
Exactly. And when there's so many distractions, it's very difficult to do that. And quite honestly, given I can't trust our politicians or representatives, it's I've been praying for divine intervention with all that's happening in the world right now. I'm just relying on karma, to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
Right.
So it just frees me up a lot, because I don't have any control over so much of what is happening, other than to not add, to the harm that's being caused.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, La, how are you working with meditation now? How does that show up in your life?
Yeah, well, I'm mostly sharing it, with people in terms of holding spaces for meditation groups, for teenagers, for queer folks, for people of color, for young adults. Those are a lot of the populations that I've been working with over the last 7 or so years of teaching, and starting to do more mainstream, everybody, kind of teaching. And it's the biggest gift to be able to share what has benefited me so deeply and greatly with other people, and to watch them understand and accept themselves more and transform these negative energies that just don't serve them, and to be able to let that go. So in my own practice, it's every movement I make, every way that I move through my life is a meditation. It's I'm very much I'm not just going to sit on my cushion and think that that's going to be enough. It's how do I take, that mindfulness that I've cultivated on my cushion for many years into my everyday interactions with people, or how I do my work, or even just showering or doing dishes, but just being really, really present, or being with my dogs, or whatever it happens to be. So it's just really cultivating more presence, because being able to clarify what's happening in this moment versus what could be happening out there brings me peace, because all that stuff is always going to be happening. But when I can remember to just come back and just be wow, I'm enjoying this tea, I'm having this incredible conversation with Ren, there's just so much gratitude that comes from that. And from that is nourishment and nurturance to just keep going.
Mm-hmm. You're reminding me to keep the now in my practice, and the thing is, it's not like I don't know that, but it's I need to be reminded every single day.
Every single now.
Every single now. Every single now.
Yeah.
So you've taught me a lot over the years, whether you know it or you don't know it.
Okay.
And that's, I'm grateful for that every time. My next question is there anything else coming up that you'd like to talk about? And there is something that I want to ask about because it's coming up.
Sure.
I did a meditation retreat with you one year, and it was, that in itself is an incredible experience. Maybe I'll talk about that on my bonus content. You brought out the ukulele a few times, and you have these beautiful little songs about whatever, simple, happy meditation kind of stuff, if I remember. And I wanted to tell you first that you've inspired me to kind of do the same thing sometimes. But when did that come about? And do you still use that? I'm just curious. This is a personal question.
Sure, yeah. I love humor. and I love having fun. And when I first picked up the ukulele, when it was during a honeymoon I was with my partner, and we were in Hawaii, and so I my souvenir I want to bring back from Hawaii is going to be ukulele. And it's just so easy to play, and I've basically taught people how to play, and tons of people have bought ukuleles because of it. But
I'm sure.
I find that being able to make light of life, to make light of the Dharma even, a friend of mine, a dear friend Rachel Lewis, said to me once, La, the Dharma is too important to take seriously. Like, life is too important to take seriously. And so when I write these Dharma spoof songs, I feel like, and then play the ukulele along with it, it just doubles the adorability of the process. But at the same time, it, so much to me of the teaching, it's very simple, and I think as human beings, and especially human beings here in Washington, D.C., we want to make things much more complicated than they need to be, or intellectualize things so much more.
Oh my gosh, yes.
To me, being able to have these little songs helps people, because songs are easy to remember, and then if you need a little guidance, if I sing one of my songs, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like waking up is hard to do, or my mind is a prison, and I need to free myself from it. So it's just a way that I have found helps me to remember when I forget.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I really, truly want to thank you and give gratitude to you for inspiring that musicality and that humor in me in part. And a lot of folks have kind of done that in the past couple of years. It's been coming up. One of my primary messages in the last couple of years has been, it need not be serious to be true. And that's been coming through in different ways, at different times, on all different levels in my life. And that was a really sweet layer that came in when you were doing that at the meditation retreat. I want to thank you for that. Is there anything else coming up for you right now that you'd like to mention or talk about?
The biggest thing is, as I hold, so much of what is happening in the world right now, and how grateful I am to have various practices and modalities and teachers and support all around me to be with it all. I think I just want to, say to your audience that, the more we can cultivate awareness of ourselves and our responsibility and our part in this world, the better we can serve each other and be there for each other and love each other and seek understanding, if not agreement, with each other. To get that, also I'm realizing that it's a long haul, that big change, and especially change towards the liberation of all beings, may not necessarily happen in this lifetime, but it doesn't mean that we stop working towards that. That we just keep doing that and doing the best that we can to cultivate more compassion and generosity and kindness to ourselves and to all those in our spheres, which will then ripple out. Because I just feel like I've never identified myself as an activist. I've always just felt like I'm just doing my part, and if that benefits in whatever sort of social justice sort of way that's by accident, then the better. But I feel like we are all responsible and able to cultivate major change, even in small ways. So just to have people just feel good about whatever you do to, make someone breathe a little easier to your day, or help a little animal, or able to, if you have the resources, to donate money to causes you believe in. It all matters and it all is important. So to not feel overwhelmed by this intense wave we're experiencing right now.
Right. I got chills while you were speaking that, you touched on something that's really, I think, important, and that's self-compassion. Start kind of maybe even as a starting point. In the work I do, I find a lot of people could really up their self-love and their self-compassion. And when you do that, that ripples out.
Yes.
And it allows you to hold more love and more compassion for others. So I wanted to thank you for bringing that up, because that's a huge piece.
Totally. It's got to start here before it can start there.
So La, how can people reach you or learn more about what you do?
Sure. I've got a website. It's www.lawsarmiento.com. and gives a little summary of like all the different ways that I serve in the world and how to be in touch with me. And I'd love to hear from folks in your audience. They need support.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful, La. Thank you so much for coming over today here in
thank you,
Washington,
Ren.
D.C. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A special treat for this episode is that La consented to letting me interview them playing one of their classic Zen songs on the ukulele. So please enjoy this song from La Sarmiento, My Mind's Prison Blues.
I hear those thoughts are coming round the bend. I ain't felt such suffering since I don't know when. And I'm stuck in my mind's prison, and I just can't get free. But those thoughts keep a-coming, and that's what tortures me. So here we are in Sangha on a meditation retreat. Not much else to do here but sit, walk, and eat as we watch our minds wander, thoughts going to and fro. Amazing what can happen when we can finally let go. The practice makes you stronger, at least that's what we say. Build you up some courage to learn how to stay. And I trust that with more practice of love and compassion, that an open heart regardless can actually be fun. So may you all be happy, may you all know peace, be free from suffering, the ultimate release. May the merit of your practice wake up all beings now. As all things are impermanent, I end with a heartfelt bow.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ren.
Oh my gosh, La. Thank you. I do just want to note that I believe I made only one note and one comment after the meditation retreat, and that was, La, when are you going to put these all out on CD?
Right. Working on it, Ren. Working on it.
Yes, because everyone's going to want it. I'm so thrilled I got to talk to La. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. I just enjoy La's energy so much. I could hang around them all day. I am thrilled that they played a ukulele song for us at the end, and I just am so pleased that you all get to hear this creativity, uniqueness that comes out of La. You can find out more about La Sarmiento at www.lasarmiento.com. Do you like Let's Get Metaphysical? Are you enjoying all the guidance and insights that you're getting? Please consider being a patron of ours on Patreon.
Let's Get Metaphysical is a production of the Hana Healing Arts Network. The show's host is Renata Maniaci. Production and audio editing by Zoe Ravenwood. The voice of the credits is me, Aries. Thanks for listening.